Welcome to the Grande Bouffe.
The Big Feast.
With myself, Cole Smithey, and my co-host, Mike Lacey.
Glad to be here, Cole. How's it going?
Hey, good, Mike. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well.
We're back to taking the reins. It's just you and I. We've gone through a little slew of guest hosts.
Just you, me, and my weird feelings after watching this movie.
This is definitely a not safe for work podcast. If you have children around, send them away, put them to bed. This is going to be dirty.
I don't know if we've had ones that I would really ever consider safe for work. I love the idea of someone blasting a podcast out of their computer at work. You know,
where do they say things like analingus and sodomy and anal intercourse?
Yeah, we're going to be saying that a lot. It's funny you say that because I'm a bad movie viewer, and luckily this is a Cronenberg movie and not a David Lynch movie because he'd give me a lot of shit for it. I watched a bunch of this mobilely. I don't want to say on my phone per se, but that was the only thing I had. And so I was watching some of this on the New York subway, some of it on a coffee shop down the street from here, and this is a uncomfortable movie to watch in public. It's a lot of just tilting it down towards the table and leaning back, which makes it look like you're watching porn. And there are scenes in this which I would qualify as kind of like watching porn. Pretty much.
It's very porny movie. And I remember seeing this film when it came out. I saw it in San Francisco at a press screening in 1996 when it came out. And there was a lot of controversy over this movie being released. I believe it was Ted Turner who tried to block the American release of this picture. So obviously Cronenberg shot it in Canada, and he makes no bones about the fact that it's filmed in Canada.
You know, it was a giveaway to me. Because I suspect most movies are shot in Canada, or at least most TV shows. But
well, certainly Cronenberg movies.
Certainly Cronenberg. Yeah,
he's Canadian. He's Canadian.
And there is a shot of a cop in a very Canadian-looking cop uniform, not a Mountie. It was just a highway cop, but they didn't dress him up like it was a Detroit or New York cop.
Well, also in the way the cops handle there's a of course it's called Crash, and there are many car crash scenes in the movie, and there's a staged crash, and when the cops show up to they don't even arrest anyone. They they have this thing on the bullhorn, disperse now, you are under threat of arrest or something. They're not even trying. It's not how we do things in America at all.
Later, the crash scene on the highway, it's the chillest. It's the least urgent thing I've ever seen. Everyone is just taking their time. They're using the jaws of life, and they might as well be delivering Tim Hortons donuts.
I agree. No, I noticed that too. Everything's very somber and slow, and even the victims, they're just very still. I should have prefaced that the surviving victims, they're just they're disoriented, but they're very still. And it brings to mind there's a scene from David Lynch's Wild at Heart. Have you seen Wild at Heart?
I've not seen Wild at Heart. So, and I just want to say it's a big deal for me to say that, because this movie to me, and then we'll get into the beer in a second, but
oh yeah,
this is emblematic of a certain kind of movie to me, which is movies that I very often pretend that I have seen before, where I was made aware of this movie 10 years ago, and instantly from hearing about it, I decided it was a movie that I respected and was down for, and then never got around to seeing it. All my friends saw it. I knew a bunch about it, and just people would say, "Have you seen Crash?" And I'd be like, "Not the 2006, 2007.
And Paul Haggis, I have to say, fuck Paul Haggis for sure. For naming his goddamn movie
How
Crash.
How fucking funny! What more opposite of a film could you? Make
and I have a problem with the filmmaker Steve McQueen because
of his name.
Because of his name, dude. You're not Steve McQueen. There's only one Steve McQueen, and how dare you? I don't care if your real name is Steve McQueen.
Well, here's an interesting. Can he be in SAG? as his name.
I'm sure he can.
You think so?
Yeah, it's his name, but I mean, come on,
But
dude.
no, I mean, Michael J. Fox never went by J. Fox,
Right.
people have to change their real names because you can only have one.
Right.
So I wonder if the actor, if he ever acted, I don't know if he acts, but if he would be in his own movie, he would have to go by Stevie or something.
Yeah, well, or do what Steve Baders did, the Dead Boys and Lords of the New Church.
This is important to me.
He could be.
I don't know what you're talking about. I haven't seen those movies.
Well, those are bands. Those are punk bands.
See, there you go.
But he could be Steve McQueen, which would be cool.
McQueen.
And he's black, so that would be like super awesome.
So go back a second. So this is a movie that I had not seen before. I knew about, and I knew it was going to be crazy and super sexual. And you just I think it's a good sign when you think you're going to know what a movie is, and it still really surprises you and is very specific and weird. And I enjoyed this movie. I wouldn't say I love this movie, but it was certainly worth actually seeing it and no longer just pretending that I've seen it at parties to get credit.
I've fooled myself that way too. I know exactly what you're talking about, where you sort of convince yourself that you've seen a movie that you really haven't. But I do kind of want to set it up a little bit because it's based on a J.G. Ballard novel that was written in 1973. So that to me is already surprising that the novel was written in 73. And so it's all about crash fetishism, car fetishism. There's a great punk song called Red Leatherette that was based on this.
On the book?
On the book, yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a cool song. Really cool song.
So, yeah, the plot of it I feel like you've almost exposed most of the plot of it. Is basically James Spader is a movie producer who
goes by the name James, which is very interesting. And we have and his
name's James Ballard,
right?
And I looked at it is in the book too. It's very weird.
And also he's not really the protagonist in the movie. He's the substitute. I thought of him as the substitute protagonist.
Yeah, there's no. Do we want to get into? I mean, I guess while we're here on the protagonist, you want to get into the beer real quick?
Oh yeah, let's take a break for the beer. So the beer this week is provided by the Blind Tiger in the West Village at Bleecker and Jones, and that is especially important information because this beer has not been released yet.
Oh, get out!
This beer will not be available to the public until next month.
This is a Grande Bouffe exclusive here.
That's right.
Wow.
Exclusive. And it's especially appropriate for this movie because the name of the beer is Anti-Hero.
Anti-hero. You go with the anti? I go with the anti.
Anti. I like.
What do you want to do?
I like anti better. Anti-hero is better.
Anti-hero.
Yeah, you're right.
Because the anti-hero means like the person before the hero, right?
Or the little old lady.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's 6.5% ABV.
Oh, just get your anti-hero joke. That's good.
But
Anti-hero.
or anti-heroine, if you will. But I have to say, this is really good. Let
me give it a swirl.
Give that thing a taste. It's another hot day. We're still not done with the dog days of summer.
Okay, so I'm still as faithful listeners out there. I want to give a shout out to my man Colin, who I've noticed has listened to 15 episodes in the past week. Colin, get a job. But as faithful listeners will tell, I don't know how to talk about beer. I'm not a foodie, but I'm going to say something about this beer. It's got that hoppy note, very strong hop, as all IPAs do. That's not interesting to say. There's a middle note that kind of shows up afterwards, and it's kind of the hop is immediately like, and then this is kind of like. You get,
I feel you. I know what you mean.
Saying?
Yeah,
I don't know what that is, but
I don't either. But it's really good. I kind of love it. And the can, the artwork on the can it's crazy. It's got General Hop, and he's got it's a guy in some kind of crazy commie.
It's sort of commie, a little
uniform with the big hat with the big star,
yeah.
But his face is a hop, and he's got the eye patch, so he's a one-eyed hop. And then there's parachutes with hops coming down. It's a really cool. cool
It's
logo.
got
And
kind
then
of
there's
a workers' revolt.
yeah, it's got the
there.
fist. It's got the workers' revolt fist sticking up in green. It's green. Yeah, it's cool. I like the artwork, and I really like the beer from Revolution Brewing.
You know, if Bernie was a little bit more like Captain Hops right here, I think we'd be staring down the barrel of a socialist presidency.
If Bernie was faux real, he'd be spray painting those bulldozers like Jill Stein. Did you see that? There's a warrant out for her arrest for trespassing and vandalism because she spray painted the bulldozers on the Indian burial ground.
That's where the pipeline is going through.
Yeah.
That's some crazy shit.
Yeah.
Hey, we're the media. Let's give a shout out to those protests putting pipelines through.
Yeah, those Native Americans standing up for what's right.
It's their own country.
Yeah, and they're getting maced and attack dogs sicked on them. It's disgusting. It's just disgusting.
It's crazy that we don't think of things dealing with Indian populations and their countries as like international politics, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's us dealing with another country, rightfully.
Right.
And we have courts ruling like, nah, you can't protest. No, you can't do that there.
Yeah.
I don't know that much about it.
Yeah. Well, I do know that all of the agreements that we ever made with the American Indians, there was something like 400 of them. We were nigged on all of them.
That's like quite a factoid. I like to bring that up. That is like a real, and I'm like, there's not like one. There's not like one where we're like, and we will deliver you guys a shipment of bagels on March 3rd, 1873.
Right.
And it's like, you know what? That came 2 days late.
Yep.
Every single one of them. We
were nigged on every single one. So we're just bastard asshole fuckheads who don't deserve to be here, is the truth.
Yeah. We conquered this land to just set up our podcasts and spread our Canadian movie fanboyness.
All right, so we're going to get into some serious car crash, sexual fetishism, and fetishism. The movie begins with 2 scenes of analingus.
Yeah, there's so like let's get into it, man, because I'm someone who kind of keeps track of what kind of sex scenes you see in movies, and this really surprised me for some particular reasons.
In fact, 96. I think all of the sex is anal intercourse. I don't think there's any straight intercourse. I think it seemed to me that every act of intercourse was anal.
I mean,
which I also think is interesting because
like
it's an interesting point because
I feel like you're making some assumptions, but I could see the argument made.
Well, I think that Cronenberg has an anal fixation. If you look at like movies like Existenz,
yes, I have seen Existenz.
Super anal.
Yeah,
super anal.
The port. So everyone's got the little port, and it's on the back, right?
Yeah,
like extra little,
and it looks like a little butthole. Yeah.
Yeah, and he does seem... So, I mean, I looked to see if Slavoj Žižek had written a Freudian, Lacanian interpretation of this film, and he had
Zizek.
He had not found one, to my knowledge, although I found a lot of people's, dissertations that I, quoted Lacan and, referencing this movie. So I'm sure he's must have said something about it at some weird Q&A. But yes, in Cronenberg's 1996 erotic thriller, he's got.
Oh, I love it.
Something
I love the way he talks. It's so
it's
great.
Amazing.
I know the guy's amazing.
But there's there it is right there. It's but I think Freudianly I could see Cronenberg, who I don't even know if I know what he looks like, but I have so many thoughts from seeing a few of his movies, and I would bet that he's kind of an anal guy, to be Freudian about it. His movies are so sexually explicit and trying to reveal the. Yeah, you know what? I have seen this guy. Yeah, he kind of looks like a gothic painting of a goblin that became a filmmaker.
And he's always been obsessed with the body as a transformative thing that, have you seen Videodrome?
I have seen Videodrome. Yeah, body horror is where the genre most of his films fall into, right? Maybe not. I don't know if it's most, but a lot of these.
A lot of his early films, certainly, for sure.
Yeah. And I wish I was a heavy genre guy, because this would be an interesting movie to talk about in the terms of genre, whether this is body horror or not. It definitely
I
almost
think,
alludes to itself as being like the
right.
fetish.
Well, I think you have to go back to the Ballard novel, and to me, it's an erotic suspense. It's all based on erotic suspense fetishism to me.
I feel like we haven't given too much of a synopsis of it, and
No. In fact,
you could do it in like I want to say about 15 seconds. But.
all right. So I want to give a couple, because you'll hear why. So the IMDb, shout out to IMDb, after getting into a serious car.
What's up, IMDb?
Hey, buddy. After getting into a serious car accident, a TV director discovers an underground subculture of scarred omnisexual car crash victims who use car accidents as the raw sexual energy they produce to rejuvenate his sex life with his wife. So, all right, we're just going to step off for a minute. So, obviously, this is the James Spader character, James.
Yeah, who is the same name as the author, even in the book, which is just interesting.
Right, and we're going to talk more about that, because So, and Deborah Kara Unger is Catherine with a C, and that's his wife, and they have an open marriage. And so the movie starts out, and
Catherine with a C. You're very specific there.
Yeah, well, my wife's name is Catherine with a K, so I think about these things
for different. Okay.
So the movie opens up, and it opens up with her, and she's in an what's it called? It's a place where they keep airplanes. It's a hangar.
An airplane hangar, yeah.
An airplane hangar. And she's really got it hot for the airplane, and she's getting her ass eaten by some guy. And then
like there's no other way to put it. Like,
that's it. That's what's happening. And then, but
I feel like if you're like, and she's engaging in it, like you're getting it like it's shot like a Skinemax. There's something Canadian. Like I don't know if Canadians shoot in like shout out to my video nerds. I don't know if they shoot in POW or 30 frames per second. There's something so Canadian looking about the way like camera moves and stuff.
I agree.
Totally.
I agree. It's probably the cinematographer.
Yeah.
So all right. Well, now that
but she's getting her ass ate in a real Canadian way. All right.
Yeah, and then cut to her hubby, who is busy eating the butt of the camera girl for his TV thing.
He's going down this AC.
Whose name, by the way, I give it half.
Shout out.
Her name is Alice Poon.
For real?
For real.
Her name doesn't get stated at all.
No, the actress's name is Alice Poon.
Oh, for real?
For real. No, she's just camera girl. So that's how the movie opens.
Yeah, there's these sort of parallel scenes of them doing this, and so But
it takes a long time to figure out, like that they're man and wife. He's prominently got the wedding ring on all the time.
I didn't know they were man and wife.
Yeah, it's hard. It's really hard to know what the relationship is, because there's three women that female characters that play strongly into this movie. There's Holly Hunter's character, and I would,
how fucking nuts Holly Hunter's in this movie.
I just want to say that I really love the performances by the women in this movie. I think that all of the performances are great, but I think that the women have a little more weight to bear, and they're terrific. So yeah, and then Roseanne Arquette is in my favorite scene of the movie, which occurs at a car dealership with a Mercedes, and the salesman comes over, and her character has been very, very badly injured in car accidents, so much so that she wears braces on both legs. She is so BDSM'd up with her contraptions. I mean, Louis Buñuel would love to have that character in one of his movies.
She has a compartment in her braces, which is just a tiny little cabinet where she stores joints.
I love that. That's awesome. Yeah.
That was the only thing that was too far for me.
It's a great little detail. No, I agree, but it's a hilarious detail.
That is, like, honestly, that's the only thing that, like, I could not suspend my disbelief for.
I agree, but I still enjoyed it.
So there's something if you.
Oh, we're going for a musical break.
What are you doing?
I just wanted to bust out with a little warm leatherette. This is the song by the punk band The Normal that's inspired, and it's called Warm Leatherette.
So this is punk music? That's technically punk music?
Yeah, techno punk music. It's
Techno punk, okay.
I mean, I don't know.
I was thinking, is it technically punk? Yeah.
Is it technically punk? I think it is. Sure.
I mean, I'll take you for it. I
think if you call your band The Normal and it's 1980, I'm guessing they were around in
That's
1980.
pretty wild. That was 1980.
I'm guessing. I don't know. We'll get back to you with more info on The Normal. But in the meantime,
let's talk about tone, because
Yeah.
this goes through a lot of Cronenberg movies where there is this weird sort of like wet blanket, like it's like everyone's on like a certain kind of pills, and
I agree.
It seems like universe wide. And thinking of, and so like I think the description wasn't terribly off, but what I think needs to be stated about this movie is you are unclear whether you are only seeing the world through the lens of these people with this fetish, or if this is the entirety of the universe. You were talking about whether James Spader is the protagonist of the movie or the it sounded like the anti-hero, as in like the before the hero, like where there's a space for it. And I think that's really right. There's no window character in this movie. Like there's no
That's
one
right.
that we can like judge like, oh, this is really weird from. Like no one has reaction shots.
Well, here's the thing. To me, the Vaughn character, the Vaughn character he's the head honcho of this little cult of perverts. We'll just call them a cult of perverts. Not that there's anything wrong with perverts, but that's what we got going. And he's wonderful.
I want to talk about perverts.
And he's wonderful. We were going to. And he's wonderfully played by Elias Koteas, who's an amazing actor. And just for my money, I mean, he turns in such a phenomenal performance that he almost runs circles around James Spader. But that's what he's supposed to be doing, because James Spader is more of a voyeur. And there's a very telling, to me, a very telling scene. It's a sex scene while the anal intercourse is occurring. Between,
okay. I'm gonna say you.
Can we
like,
cut to this?
No, you are just like. I think it is very unclear that that's anal intercourse.
No. I watched it and I really looked at it for.
Okay, well, I was watching it on my cracked iPhone.
Yeah, I was
on the subway,
yeah,
so I think I'm the expert on what was happening. I mean, I find that very so there's something about this movie.
Well, no, we got to talk about this scene.
I want to know explicitly why you think it's anal intercourse.
It's a dirty scene.
Why do you think it's anal intercourse? So this is when they're going through the.
This is when they're talking. This is when she's doing all the talking, and she's kind of setting him up for his bisexuality, and he's not responding.
Yeah, I was watching that scene on the subway. That was very.
She's asking him if he's ever
sucked
a penis or licked a penis.
That was a extremely graphic nude scene for the 90s, even for today. Like it really looks like real intercourse, and
it's very uncomfortable conversation, very uncomfortable dialogue, and he doesn't respond. He doesn't say a peep.
So
he doesn't.
You think that seems like Reese is uncomfortable? So let me bring up a word that was
for the dialogue. I think it's very.
Let me bring up this word that was used in that description, which is omnisexual, which I have not heard. I think pansexual.
Where did that?
You read that from? Was that IMDb? You said the word omnisexual.
I did.
That's what I heard. I was gonna bring that up because that's not a.
You're right. You're right.
That's not a term I've ever heard. Like that sounds like someone just kind of trying to put a label on that.
But you're not omnivorous.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. But I think pansexual would be what they're getting at. Like that's an actual like term that people use when discussing sexuality.
Okay.
And so in that scene, what you're seeing is it turns out to be his wife. They're having sex. Cole will tell you it's anal sex. I will say
and it's probably the
me.
only. It's the most normal sex that occurs in the movie. They're in bed.
Yeah.
No, there's no. All the other sex that occurs is in cars.
And they have. And I guess it's like. I don't know what you're doing if you haven't watched this movie. Go watch it now. But like they have a very open relationship. Like so.
That's the story.
So there's 3 scenes at the beginning that's kind of set up the nature of their relationship. Is her having sex with a man, him having sex with a woman, them being together, and then talking about the sex that they've just had, and then they have sex of some sort on the balcony.
Right.
So they're in an open relationship, and there's this, to get into tone a little bit again, there's this sort of everyone seems kind of clinically depressed and like hard, like doing like moving towards these extreme like forms of sexuality. Like already these two seem to like need to be like acting out to get off, and they seem to.
Right. So
I don't know if they like each other. I don't know if they hate each other. They're fine. They get along.
No, you've hit the nail on the head. I think that all of the romanticism is transmogrified to an objectified fetishism, and I think that's what really fucked with American audiences, because American audiences, I think for the most part, they just, everything has to be like a 60s R&B soul song where, I just want, you're my woman, I'll do anything for you, blah, blah, blah. And there's none of that in this movie. This movie is anti-romantic. Everything is fetishized. It's all about objectification. And that, how that's a turn on.
So there's like, let me give what I see as the arc of this movie, and I want to hear what you think about this.
Go for it.
Okay. I see James Spader as being a producer. I didn't know it was TV. I don't know how they know that. I don't think that makes it clear.
No.
But
and I think that there's some serious discrepancies between the novel and the script.
So, but he's a producer, and like most producers, he doesn't really seem to do anything but just fuck like assistant camera girls. And he is already on this trajectory of kind of needing this like extreme sexuality to be engaged, to get off and to be interested, and so but we're still in like a kind of grounded reality where like we know of people, maybe some of our listeners, God bless you, like are in these sort of like these.
All right, but go for the arc. I want to hear the arc.
Yeah. Pansexual. So the arc is he gets in a car accident, and like the pieces I see of it, because the movie's not it's very explicit, but it's not too explicit on like what's exactly happening plot wise. He gets in a car accident, and I think it's later revealed that he was looking at porn, because we see this stuff in there. I believe this is what I believe happens. He gets in a car accident.
No, he gets in the car accident because he's looking at his notes for his directing stuff.
But then you remember later he goes in his car and there's all this stuff on the
but on the floor.
Now, were those the things he was holding? Because he gets in a car accident and becomes almost infected with his sexuality gets infused with car accidents, and then he immediately enters this world where everyone in this world has that same.
Okay, but let's get into how that indoctrination begins.
Yeah,
because it happens in a couple of ways. It happens first in the way Catherine responds to him when she comes to visit him in the hospital, which, because the car accident happened near an airport, it's a bunch of beds that have been set aside for airplane crash victims. So there's nobody else in the ward, just him. And the way that his wife responds to him is informative, because she is attracted to he's got this rigging on his leg where everything's puncturing. It's classic Cronenberg, where you see the metal going deep into the flesh of and then the Holly Hunter character, the character who he was in the crash with, he
hit their car and killed her husband.
Right. He went through the husband flies through the windshield.
Now, so when he goes back to his car, he finds that porn on the floor, and at first I thought that came along with the husband. Which
I think you're making a little too much out of the porn on the floor.
But no, like
was that his car? Are you sure that's his car?
Yes, he goes into his car,
All right,
and
that's his car with the porn.
Because I'm trying to pinpoint where it's like this. So I guess your argument is that it's a progressive thing, and that his wife I had to she has an airplane fetish.
Yeah, I think that's that's what I'm saying, is that she's part of it. She's already she's already leading him in that direction. Is what I'm saying.
I'll take objection to that, because I think if I keep going with my interpretation of what's happening, she is outside of this fetish in a certain way, and
Oh, I see. I disagree. She's such a scar freak. She's so into scarification.
I think so. I almost want to divide it into there's airplane people and there's car people.
But see, you can't. It's all about. It's all.
Okay,
It's
but
all.
I'll
It's all a part of this anti-romantic fetish mind. It almost doesn't. To a certain degree.
but it's so explicitly specific. I think it's like important.
No, I
like,
see.
what
I
the
don't
thing
think
is.
it is because like we were saying before about this omnisexual aspect to it.
But they
and this,
love
and,
cars.
and the scarring.
This is the world that they're into cars. They get like car crashes, get them off.
Well, that's
like
from that's Vaughn. That's Vaughn's influence.
But-
and Vaughn is he is the anti-hero of the movie. He is the protagonist because he speaks the theme lines of the movie. And I do want to just quote a few of Vaughn's lines where he really very clearly expresses the theme of the piece, which is when he's talking about a benevolent psychopathology that beckons toward us. Car crash as a fertilizing rather than destructive event, a liberation of sexual energy mediating the sexuality of those who died with an intensity that is impossible in any other form. And he sets that up by saying that he's all about reshaping the human body by modern technology.
Well, so that last thing was like his early version of his thesis,
Right. That's just
and
that's
then
his warm up.
He later is like, yeah, I just throw it out there to see if you're into it. Which I would love to know if that's in the book or not, because that sounds like a description of like Videodrome. Like that sounds like earlier Cronenberg and almost Cronenberg being like, I'm involving like actually like
Maybe Cronenberg wrote that line.
Yeah, like actually like it's way more intense and fucked up and interesting than just like, because that first line you could read that the first thing he says, but the last thing that you said, you could read that on the morning news. Like if you're like, what is Crash about? Like it's about the relationship between the modifications from like, that science has on our bodies to like our sexuality. Like you could put that on like a morning talk show.
Okay.
In Kansas
All right.
City.
So let's get into Vaughn a little bit because he to me he comes from Kenneth Anger. Hollywood Babylon. You know about Hollywood
I know
Babylon?
about it. You know what I'm doing? I'm really proud of myself right now, Cole. I haven't seen a Kenneth Anger movie. No, wait. No, I've seen one. Yeah, I've seen one Kenneth Anger movie.
Which one? Do you know?
No, I don't.
Okay, we'll figure that out later.
Yeah.
Anyway, the point is, he's very fixated on celebrities who've died in cars, and I love there's a few things that really popped out at me. He talks about Camus' car accident in a Vega, and Nathaniel West. Did you catch that? Nathaniel West.
I didn't even pick up the Camus one either. I remember.
And Nathaniel West, who we just we
did Camus die in a car accident?
Well, I don't know if he did or not, but he certainly had
shit
one.
up.
And so shout out to Day of the Locust, which we just did a couple episodes back. And he references his Nathaniel West accident in a station wagon and Grace Kelly's Rover accident in a Rover 3500, and also realized that all of this happened. This movie came out right before Princess Diana died in that horrible incident in the tunnel. So this fetishization
How is this not a hit?
of celebrities dying in car crashes, and of course we're going to talk about the James Dean reenactment. But in the book, Vaughn's ultimate fantasy is to die in a head-on collision with Elizabeth Taylor.
Yeah.
So there is this celebrity aspect that really is important to Vaughn's fixation on car crashes. He really, he does this reenactment, and this to me, this sequence is the one that I remember most from having seen this movie a couple of times in the past 25 years, whatever, is when they do the James Dean reenactment, where they reenact the James Dean car crash.
Yeah, it's really crazy. I mean, they have
these bleachers set up. They're in this private little back road, and Vaughn's got the microphone, and he's the MC. He's introducing it. He's going into all the detail about the Porsche mechanic who got flown over from Germany to be James Dean's co-pilot in The Little Bastard. and which is the Porsche that Dean was driving, and he quotes James Dean's last words before the accident, which is, "Don't worry, he's got to see me. Don't worry, he's got to see me."
Right, James Dean probably driving on the wrong side of the road. And
No, that's not. Yeah, no.
So what was the specifics of the...
So what happened was the guy pulled out on them. He was speeding, of course, because they're driving through bumfuck California, and I can't remember the rural route going on their way to Salinas, and but it was a rural route. It's a 2-lane highway, and so this guy pulled out right in front of him, and in a much bigger car. And so the German mechanic for Porsche survived the accident.
He's thrown from it, though. Yeah.
Thrown from it, yeah. Although as they point out, he spent a year in the hospital and then died in a car crash 26 years later.
So there's this conflation of this sort of supreme states of being that celebrities represent, the thrill of these near-death experience and the sexuality, and I feel weird that I brought this up. These people that are all in this community have no real respect for each other's lives.
Right.
I feel like it's very if I were in a fetish community, I would be offended by this movie because it portrays you as a psychopath. It's got to be something what's the Al Pacino movie in the leather community?
Cruising.
Yeah,
Cruising.
it's
Everybody has to get off, and they know how they like to get off, and they get off together in this way. But it's very cold.
Yeah.
And I think that part of at least the movie. I haven't read the novel. I had the novel, and I looked around for it. I couldn't find it. Maybe it's stuck on a bookshelf somewhere. But I think that part of the movie is about this addiction where it's escalating toward a kind of necrophilia, and that's where the movie goes at the very end.
Right.
And I feel like that's where it's heading, and so if there's a commentary on, I think that I think this movie ultimately is pejorative about fetish, and that's what you're getting at.
I think
because
so.
Yeah, it doesn't. There's no celebration. There's no joy. Everything is more about how far can you go, and how far can I make you go.
I kind of feel Cronenberg tempting me to become titillated by this movie. Like if you were turned on by it, I kind of see him looking at you in the audience, being like, "Yeah, are you into that? Okay,
right? Yeah,
are you into that?
Right?
Yeah. It's you. It's strange because
and also part of that I have to say I think comes from James Spader's character. James Spader, who famously his career took off with Sex, Lies, and Videotape.
He feels typecast in this role, honestly.
Right, and so James Spader for a long time made his livelihood being the go-to pervert.
No one gives better reactions to watching other people have sex than James Spader.
Absolutely,
he's so good at it.
He's so good, and I have to say, Secretary is one of my favorite movies. I think Secretary is really great, and he's great in it. But yeah, so he's holding down that character archetype.
I hope we do Sex, Lies, and Videotape. I saw it for the first time recently, and that unlike this movie has these really grounded, amazing human performances.
The movie is so much about human connection.
Yeah, and this is explicit, and I bring it up because this is explicitly not you see. There's several scenes where people will be on a couch together.
It does make you think differently about The Lincoln Lawyer, though. This movie,
The Lincoln Lawyer.
With Matthew McConaughey, because he's in the Lincoln, and this movie's all about Lincolns.
Okay.
Especially if they have the suicide doors, because Vaughn's car is a Lincoln with the suicide doors.
Suicide doors. My band in high school covered this song by T-Pain called. This is only becoming more relevant as I tell the story. It's called 69, and it's and there's a line in the back of my Lincoln with the suicide doors, and it's a rap song, but we turned into this real great ditty. It's almost like a sea shanty. I want to talk about a scene that I think is about the crux of the movie, in my opinion. And it really may be, I'm trying to think, it's maybe exactly the midway point, or it's kind of tipping towards like the end of Act 2. It is when Catherine, the wife, is in the back of the car with Vaughn
Right.
while they're going through the car wash, and lots of like things go very like unspecified as to what exactly is happening. You know, similar to the way that everyone's sexuality is. It's the scenes of in the sex scenes, and just generally things kind of bleed into each other, and they have this formlessness. I think she's raped in that scene.
Nah.
Okay, she's raped in that scene.
That's
I'm gonna call it.
No, I see.
So what is the next scene?
To me, that scene's a three-way.
Okay, she pushes him away. She is not into it, and then in the next scene,
Oh, she's so into everything.
I think that is. I think you're in the world of the fetish. I think you're like.
Well, she's
I
so
think you're in the objectifying thing.
She's so into the world of the fetish.
No, I think that is absolutely.
And also,
I think that is
and
a
also,
rape scene. And
well, she's not penetrated, is she?
Well, according to you, every scene has got like butt sex in it. But I like.
He's just playing with her nipple, right?
They're really going at it in the back, and she's pushing him away, and in the next scene we see her nude with James Spader, and she has this. Everyone in the movie has a dead look on her face. She has a very dead look on her face.
But that's
what is that next scene?
Well, that's the one where what I remember most about that scene is the gooey hand when she comes up. You see the hand come up, and it's just covered in juice of some kind.
Yeah, what?
She's got some kind of she's got some kind of self-made lubricant all over her hand, and it goes and
I want to watch
grabs
scene
and grabs
under a microscope because I think like in this scene is
of the car,
because in the arc of the movie, here's what I'm seeing is there's a I
think we're gonna have to go to a 2-beer thing. I don't know if 1 beer is enough.
This movie needs shots, honestly. Like what I'm seeing is like this, like as Cronenberg presents this fetish, it's almost a form of like vampirism that you become like people suck you into, and it's kind of like how can you experiment with objectifying people and with treating them as basically like flesh bags, and you're turned on by like the mortality of it, because these people like in this club like that have this like deep connection with each other, people are dying, and they go up and they just take photos, or they fuck in the back seat of the car this person died in, and it kind of ends with this couple where like I think his line is like, well, maybe next time. It's almost like, well, maybe next time you'll die, you know.
Well, see, that's where I was going with the escalating aspect of this movie where fetishes escalate to you can't get enough, you get addicted, and it's like pot leads to heroin, and then you die. But I think that I mean, certainly for Vaughn gets his wish, and that's what he wants, and also his buddy who just can't wait. Jane Mansfield, they want to reenact their the big project that Vaughn is working on is to reenact the Jane Mansfield car crash. And if you don't know, listeners, it was a big one. She was decapitated in the accident. Her head flew into the windshield. Her dog died in the car. I think she was in the backseat of the car. But just hearing that, I mean, because everyone has this idea about Jane's Mansfield, Howard Hughes actress.
Really?
Yeah.
That was the right time for that?
I believe so. I could be wrong. Let me double check.
I thought she was like a bit late for that.
We'll see.
Like Mariska Hargitay's mother, if we're talking about
right.
I feel like
that's right.
I feel like SVU has turned into like SVU is essentially like just sort of like torture porn, like for 12 seasons, and so that's kind of neither here nor there. But are you finding
what a horrible way to
Yeah.
go, and just shocking. What a beautiful woman, and to be decapitated. And we all have a certain fixation on decapitation because it's just such a, I mean, that's the end. There's no question. Once your head has been removed, everything is over. And to think that she died that way is just horrifying. But it's a celebration of of the car crash as an orgasmic experience.
So there's to talk about this in the context of body horror, and like maybe you can make this a bit more concrete to me, but like what Cronenberg, going back to like The Fly, right, is like best known for is
one of the best remakes ever.
The existential terror that we all go through with like our body shifting. Like I feel silly like trying to approximate like a coherent definition of this, but there's a terror that can come from like supernatural things fucking with us. But honestly, like what's more horrifying than puberty, than aging, than like decay? And I find like this the most like hard to watch stuff is just pieces of our bodies being torn off. It's so grounded and visceral, and this is not really supernatural at all. But you could almost see a version of this which is very positive, where people are deformed from these car accidents and they are not ashamed of it.
Right.
It's
right.
like a lot of the horror elements of this are people who have scars that are willing to share it, and other people who are attracted to it.
Right.
And like there could be a very progressive version of this movie, but it's all thrown together in this same sort of pile of perversity, which is like both, I think, being critiqued, but then also it's like, if you're into that, like that's interesting. And included in that is homosexuality, is, you know, because I think when James Spader is making out with Vaughn, there is this sort of like an
whoa, you jumped, yeah. Okay, so hang on, well, let's get into that because I think James Spader, his character James has not had a homosexual experience until that moment, and
I'll take that reading, that
was my take on that.
That could be his first one, and you don't. It's not presented like James Spader is realizing that he's bisexual and is engaging with like that part of himself and has feelings for this man. It's presented more in he's throwing up his hands, he's giving in to like this just total annihilatory like eroticism. It's a really sexy movie that like wants you to feel weird for finding stuff sexy. I don't know where to land with, like, I would believe Cronenberg has never had a purposeful orgasm in his life. You know what I mean? Like, he seems like a very
I would
either he's the most like chill open person, or he's a very conflicted.
I was at a garden party with Peter Greenaway once, if you can believe it. And
I don't know who he is, so I'll believe it.
Oh my God, you don't know Peter?
Who's Peter Greenaway?
Really? Oh, okay. Well, you're setting.
I'm saying this for the benefit of the audience.
Yeah, no, I love it. You're setting up the Cook, the Thief, the Wife, and her lover. You ever heard of that?
No.
You never heard of the Thief, the Cook,
the Thief, the Wife,
the Cook, the Thief, his wife, and her lover.
Is this a riddle?
No, that's his movie.
I assumed. Yeah.
He is a genius, but he lost his mojo, and I saw him just as his mojo was about to dissipate at a garden party in San Francisco on a Sunday afternoon.
Did you see what caused the dissipation of his mojo?
Sadly, I think I did. Yeah.
Okay.
But he was awesome to talk to, and he was such a straight-laced guy. I chatted with him for like a half hour. He was the most interesting person to talk to, and I felt really under-equipped at the time because I was probably, I don't know, 32 or something. Maybe I was 35.
You were just a youngin'.
I was older than you.
I can't imagine.
I know. But you know, I took balls to walk up to Peter Greenaway and like engage him in conversation, because this guy's he's like the Elvis Costello of filmmaking. I mean, this guy was a heavyweight, and I engaged him in conversation, and we chatted for a long time, and he's made these films that are very.
I think Steve McQueen is the Elvis Costello of filmmaking, just based on like having someone.
Oh my God! Now you're gonna make me barf. I just have to tell you guys, I was walking across Central Park, as I do on Wednesdays after I come back from my chiropractor, and I see this guy, some runner, and the guy's skinny as a fucking rail, and I found out why. He's got his dog on a leash and he's running, And I'm going from Central Park West right into the park, right into the right to walk on the path on the reservoir, and I see this guy with his dog, and there's a water fountain there. So and they have like a little doggy dish for the dog to drink water. And I'm thinking like, oh, he's just gonna like get some water for his dog. And he sticks his fucking finger in his mouth and is vomiting like on purpose. So he's doing like the
he's hungover,
the anorexic thing or whatever that's called.
Oh.
I don't know what it's called when you like vomit to try and
Purging.
Yeah. And it was just disgusting. And I thought, why?
You don't think he was like hungover? What?
No, he's a runner, and he's
This
is like part of his regime, and I just couldn't. I mean, I audibly, gave a disgusted like, ugh.
As someone who knows Cole, I'm sure it was very audible.
It was very audible. Yeah, and I was disgusted. Like, what the fuck? I have to say, I have a problem with runners. I think runners suck, man. I mean, it's like all these.
You have a problem with bulimic people.
All these skinny people running. And then
skinny people.
and then vomiting. I mean, how skinny do you? The guy, like I said, the guy is already a race. I guess that's how he stays that way.
Well, to be fair, I'm very skinny, but fuck running. Okay.
But I just want to say, if I was a different kind of person, I would have found that just fucking hot. I would have been like, oh my god, the guy's vomiting.
What other kind of person?
Hey man, there's perverts out there that are like vomiting, and they'll be like, oh my god, I can't.
We're talking about movie fetishes, and it's
we're just talking about perversions and shit.
Hey, quick question: what does that do with Steve McQueen?
Okay, so Lamons was on TCM the other night, and I just want to.
I thought that
Steve, Steve
McQueen?
If you want to know why Steve McQueen was how great an actor Steve McQueen is,
Steve McQueen.
Watch Papillon, because Steve McQueen runs so many circles around Dustin Hoffman in Papillon. I mean, it's day and night. They like both have kind of equal parts in the movie, but Steve McQueen is just completely authentic, and Dustin Hoffman is a caricature. Just putting it out there. Dustin Hoffman's performance, to me, caricature. Steve McQueen as Papillon, spot on. Really spot on.
Steve McQueen, to me, is, I think Rollerball honestly comes up first. I don't know why.
Steve McQueen is not in Roll. You're thinking of James Caan.
Oh, fuck.
You've blown it,
fuck,
my friend.
Okay. He is in The Great Escape, though, right?
He is.
Okay.
That's right. He jumps
so
the barbed wire fence.
You're
up
so
at the
right.
Triumph.
I totally conflated Steve McQueen and James Caan in my head so hard right there.
Yeah, you did.
Because I was going to be like, he's great in The Godfather. They were the same person. Wow. Yeah. Because James Caan's not that great of an actor, and I was like, "Why are you going all this shit for James Caan? Like, he's not that great." What are you talking about?
No, this is the guy who stole Ally McGraw from Robert Evans.
Oh, right, yeah.
In the Peck and Paw version of The Getaway.
This plays big.
It's really big. You've seen the kid stays in the picture, right?
You know what? I'm really proud of myself. I have not, and I admit it.
No.
Let's just do it. This is the point of this.
This is the crazy podcast for Mike and I, where like all the cards come on the table. Like we just lay out everything.
This is why I'm doing this podcast.
I love it
because I can talk such bullshit about seeing so many. Because I know lots of facts about this, like these movies like that. But I started this podcast because like if you look at this list, I don't think I've seen almost any of these movies.
What movies?
That we've done on this podcast.
Oh, well, you have now.
Yeah, and I have now. I do watch them. But these are all movies that I know I should watch, and I just needed like a reason to watch it. You know, there's like I think I've seen like 2 or maybe 3 of these previously.
Right.
What your running story started with Steve McQueen. What was that about?
You kept bringing up Steve Mqueen, and that's why
I was bringing up the director Steve McQueen.
Yeah, well,
as an Elvis Costello
and you'll notice that
you're Paul Greengrass, Paul Greenway,
Peter Greenaway,
Peter Greenaway.
Right, Peter Greenaway.
Where did that you saw that as Malcolm Gladwell?
So Peter Greenaway,
in, like the negative way.
You have to watch The Cook, the Thief, His Wife, and Her Lover. Anyway, Peter Greenaway is a great British filmmaker, and he's done some amazing films, Zed and Two Knots, some very, very enjoyable black comedies, and there's a lot of outre sex stuff that goes on in his films, and
Outre?
yes,
Outre?
perverse.
Outre.
Oui, monsieur.
I need to look up this word. Outre.
It's a French word.
It's a French word for
Yeah,
pervy.
Anything that's out,
Oh, like out,
like out of the realm of normalcy.
outre.
Of course, now it's
Outre.
2006.
Is it outre?
It's
Outre?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Ultra.
Outre.
No, it's outre. I think outre.
Yeah.
But if this movie, because now this movie's made in '96, now it's 2016. Everyone's been there, done that. I mean,
This movie would have fucking think pieces about how it really like pigeonhole. It really like condemns the like the kink community and like doesn't get it. This movie would be fucking slaughtered on the blogs, honestly.
Yeah, I think so.
And there's to some and rightfully, but also like, what's this movie saying? What do you think? What do you think this movie's saying? Because I don't think it's really talking about car crash fetishists.
Okay, well, you tell me. I mean, I'm game.
Yeah.
I want to hear what you think of the through line of this film is.
I don't know if I can get the film, but I'm gonna like try to like hit the. I think it's, as you brought up, it's real interesting. This was written in '73, and it wasn't made into a movie until
Jane
90s.
Mansfield, by the way, was not the Howard Hughes actress that I was thinking of. I just wanted to put that.
Okay.
All right, now go on.
It's been in '73. I think
The book was written in '73. Yeah.
I think it makes sense. This movie came out in the '90s because there's something very specific about the Clinton era, like U.S. '90s. I know it's made in Canada, but like it's like this. I think this movie is like, to me, I look at it through the lens of what was going on in the '90s, and there is a lack of conflict, and there's a sort of
There is a lack of conflict. There's no question.
There
about
is
that.
like and I think people are looking at like what it takes for people to be excited, even in entertainment, in news.
Well, it's almost an anti-narrative in that way. It does not. There's nothing conventional about the 3-act structure in this movie. I wouldn't say there's really. I mean, there is an inciting incident. He gets in the car crash, and there is but I would say, but because. Again, it is because you have this substitution of protagonists where Vaughn's character really is the protagonist who makes the crisis decision, and he's the one who's instigating everything. And what he ends up instigating, of course, is the big crash that he has.
This movie, I mean, I don't know, man. Like I think this movie's like of a specific type in a certain sense. It's almost like a it's like the movie 13, it's someone who like stumbles into a scene and there's someone else who's kind of the cult leader of that scene. But the thing is that the protagonist, instead of like learning their lesson, is just even more into it and is taking it to its natural extent, which in this case, necrophilia. But like what I think this is like kind of hinting on is just the need for people to be titillated, and not necessarily sexually. Like I think what's the real sort of twist in this movie is like this is about the general need to be shocked and to be engaged and entertained in increasingly escalating ways. And it like 1999 is a year that's important to me in films because like that's when we're getting like American Beauty, which is this sort of like peak, not say it's like an amazing movie or anything, but like that's sort of like the peak story of like things are so great and we're so fucking bored by these great things. And then what happens in reality is you have like 9/11, which shifts humanity.
All right, hold on. Wait a minute. Now, okay, so you've gone too far.
I'm just talking. I'm pretty drunk. I'm pretty.
Yeah.
But
10 words or less, man.
Okay.
You like spit out the theme
I
of the
know.
movie.
I'm giving you the fucking context
It's
of like
too
what
much.
this means.
All right,
and
I'm going to cut you short.
Okay, let me give me like 20 seconds.
All right, spit it out.
I think this movie is relevant to me.
No. What's the theme of the movie, man?
I don't fucking know.
All right, I'm going to tell you what I think it is.
Yeah,
I gave you.
It's not even what I was trying to do.
I gave you your
Go
shot.
for it.
I gave you your shot. All right. So here's what I think it is. I think that this movie is about the worship of corporate culture, as realized through publicity, celebrity, and the objects that they, in this case, the cars that they travel in. The characters are talking about how there's so much more traffic today, and so that to me speaks to corporate profit. And I think that this film is about modern man's attempt to internalize corporate culture, i.e., materialism and speed, the inertia, the constant increasing inertia of corporate profit. And
you know what I like about that? So they get tattoos in it. They get like matching tattoos, and the tattoos are, if I'm not wrong, they are what the impression of hood ornaments would be if they
of the
were
Lincoln.
hit. Of the Lincoln, right? So it's not them getting like the Lincoln symbol tattooed. Like, this is my favorite car. It's what does it look like to be hit head on at 60 miles an hour with a car? And so like it's this the inverse relationship no one talks about to these corporate culture is like, and it's really, I mean, like that seems very true.
The Lincoln Oldsmobile. That's what they've got, that hood ornament.
We all kind of pretend we want to be like spokespersons or we want to be like the people running these companies and in charge of capitalism. Really, our experience with capitalism is being hit by cars at 60 miles an hour and just fucking victims of it. And there's something empowering of these people being like,
you got it.
I'm a victim.
Right.
And like loving it. Like fucking murder me with your fucking shit. Annihilate me. Yeah.
Right. Yep. I think that's really what this movie's about, or at least what the story's about. I don't know, what Cronenberg would say about it. I mean, he probably would dismiss that out of hand. But to me, that's what this story is about, and I think that's why the ending of it, the goal is death. And I've been thinking about this, the way that politicians deal with death a lot, the death of people, because we have so many crises, war-related and police-related crises going on around the world that America has created because it's profit. Did you know that 50% of your tax money goes to war? All the 50% of the tax money, discretionary funds, all goes to creating all this arms that we send to Saudi Arabia, and then they pass it out, and then the terror. We train the terrorists. We train all these people because that makes money too, and then of course they come back and use it all against whoever because big shock. All these people died. 500 people died in Chicago this year. There's more guns in Chicago. I mean, more people have died in Chicago than New York and LA put together. And why? Because this proliferation of guns. Well, NRA, all, corporate, it's the whole culture. It's how the culture has changed humanity. And I think that's why these characters are so cold, and they don't have any connection to any sense of romanticism or human connection. I think that's where the anal intercourse comes in. I think that's why it's such a significant thing, because there's no attempt at procreation, much less even addressing that orifice. Oh, if I may be so bold.
So you're interpreting the characters as being political in the sense of seeing people as means to their own sort of gratification sexually, and I think like this movie is on a metaphorical level like that. Like this movie didn't strike me as one wherein
it's a total think piece. This movie is definitely a think piece, and it's interesting that you and I. This is the longest. We've already gone over an hour. This is the longest episode that we've done. I did want to give a shout out to Jane Russell. I confused Jane Russell with Jane Mansfield, but so Howard Hughes, The Outlaw, was the film that he introduced Jane Russell in 1943, which was just ahead of Jane Mansfield, whose career was very short in the 50s.
I think we're wrapping up, but I think you have. So you're saying that like the characters are, in a sense, this, they're being political in this sense. People are these objects to them, and this isn't a movie where I feel like the actors all hung out with people with this kind of fetish. Right. They're operating in this like stiff, symbolic realm.
A very clinical version of fetishism.
Yeah, I'm really interested in how you make a movie where people seem to be existing in, to kind of talk like philosophically, like Lacanianly, like in the symbolic. Like, how do you tell everybody, like, okay, don't say this line like you're a person, like say it like you're reading the title of a dissertation that you're about to write. Like, does Cronenberg just give off this vibe?
I think so. I think he does give off that vibe.
Yeah,
I think
you just
so. 'Cause
show up on that set and he just indoctrinates
everybody
you with
was
this-
on. Everybody was on
like-
the same page for
like
sure.
yeah, it's amazing. Like, do you tell them like wait an extra beat and a half before you would normally give your line, or do you just sort of like ask me a question, Cole?
Did you come?
I wonder if the car had all the if it was full of gasoline.
Right, but you would have said no first.
Yeah, I would have said no first. But yeah, it's just like a non sequitur. Just no one's talking to each
Yeah,
other.
but they ask. There's a scene where he asks his wife if she came, and she says no.
Ask me that. This is gonna be weirdly intimate. This is gonna be weird. Ask me again. Ask me again.
Did you come?
No.
And on that note,
Yeah, we're out.
thank you all so much for listening. Please check out colesmithy.com, where you can find all of the episodes of our podcast in the podcast section, and of course on Stitcher and iTunes.
Please, guys, like hit up that rate, hit up that review. I know so many people are binging this.
Well, most importantly, go to SoundCloud. Just hit the like button on everything. Subscribe, become a follower, tell your friends, everything.
Chat with us on the Facebooks. Tell us what we should do next time.
Well, yeah, we've got plenty of ammo, I think.
Yeah.
Just based on this podcast. For
I'm
what
guessing
we'll do next
from our
time.
audience that like if they make suggestions, it's going to be stuff that might be on the list. But it'd be interesting if it's not at all.
Yeah, I'd be curious.
Yeah. So let us know what you want to hear, and
Remember to turn your cell phones off when you're walking, driving, or watching a movie.